I Dwell in Possibility by Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson is one of the very famous women writers in America who lived from 1830 to 1886. She stayed single all her life, and the life has been really she has been really sociable in her early years, but then by the time she became around in her 20s and 30s, she started withdrawing into her own inner world, and that is the time when the most fruitful works of hers came out. And if you look at the volume of works that she has written, around 2000 poems have been written by Emily Dickinson, but only a handful have been published during her lifetime. That is, most of the poems written by Emily Dickinson have been published posthumously. Actually, they were only discovered after her death, and then they were later published posthumously. The works of Emily Dickinson are known for their crisp, short structure and the experimentation with unusual punctuation and spelling and all that. I Dwell in Possibility is a poem written by Dickinson where the first person narrator talks about her dwelling place. And in this very short poem of three stanzas with 4 lines each, she gives a metaphor for possibility. The name of her dwelling place is Possibility, or Possibility is her house. We can see the poet speaking about her dwelling place. I dwell in possibility, a fairer house than prose. So we understand that her house or dwelling place is poetry, because the mention is made of the house being fairer than prose. And what are the specialities of her dwelling place, of her house? There are numerous windows and superior quality doors. Okay, windows are the eyes of any building. You have a look at the outside world from inside the house using your windows. So if there are numerous windows, that means you have an easy access to the external world from inside your home. And what is the specialty of doors? Doors are an access point to the external world, but more than that, a door ensures safety and security for the inhabitants. And so we all prefer heavy duty wood for constructing doors. And in the next stanza, we can see the reference made to a very important tree called the Cedar tree. Now, the cedar is considered to be a holy tree biblically, and a mention is made of cedar as the wood that is used to build the chambers in her house. So we can see that her house, she sort of promotes her house as the best house than any other, and her house, that is possibility or poetry, is better than prose, with numerous windows and superior quality doors and chambers built of cedars, impregnable of eye. Now, a house as a dwelling place should be a place that offers security and privacy. So, if you live in a house, definitely you would want your privacy to be maintained, and so your house should be impregnable to external eye, and that is ensured by her house. She gets her own privacy safeguarded, and that is what we mean by the second line of the second stanza. Her house is impregnable, or it cannot be penetrated by an outsider. Nobody can encroach within the house. It is a very sturdy house. And about the roof of the house, it is an everlasting roof, the gambrels of the sky. Gambrel is the sloping roof that we have as a design, and she says that her house has a limitless roof. The sky is her roof, which gives a better appeal to her house of poetry. Now, in the last and the third stanza, you can see about the visitors who are permitted to visit her inside the house, in spite of her safeguarded privacy. The fairest people are the visitors. The fairest people are the visitors to this house of possibility or poetry. Now, regarding occupation, this house is the best. And she says, as she concludes the poem, she says that uh, it's like the spreading wide of narrow hands to gather paradise. If she just spreads wide her hands, she is able to gather paradise in her dwelling place. So, in short, we can see that in this very brief description, she elevates the level of poetry compared to prose. Why she prefers poetry to prose, or the defense that she makes in justification of poetry versus prose. Poetry as a possibility for her, as an occupation that gives her limitless freedom, and as a vent to all her emotions. Now, if we look at the structure of the poem, as we have already seen, it's a very short poem with just 3 stanzas of 4 lines each, but a lot of hyphenated phrases are there. Now, this punctuation, this experimentation with punctuation is very peculiar of Emily Dickinson. And if you look at the images also, they look scattered, but altogether, put together, they give a very beautiful visual appeal. The poem is deeply interested in the power gained by a poet that the person achieves through his or her poetry. Now, I have mentioned the poet as a first person narrator, and I was attributing a female voice to it. Okay, this poem is written by Emily Dickinson, so I personally prefer it to be a female narrator. It could be otherwise. The gender could be anybody, but I prefer personally to a female narrator. Anyway, in the first stanza, the poem seems to be about poetry as a vocation as opposed to prose, and also she makes a comparison between the two. There are a lot of similes and metaphors that convey that poetry is a possibility for her, more beautiful, superior, and open than prose. In the second stanza, the focus is only on poetry as a house, as a forest or a garden, part of nature, with a limitless roof of sky, not confined by boundaries. And the visitors to the house are equally fair as the house itself, lovers of poetry. If you look at the structure of the poem, also, it reflects the freedom that is available in her poetry. Only 2 lines do not end with dashes. So you can see that the poem emphasizes the empty space between lines, the windows of interpretation. And rhyme scheme also appears only here and there. So ultimately, this poem does not constrain itself using conventional modes of stylistics. Looking at the punctuation and capitalization, it is unpredictable, and so the poet attains a godlike stature. The poet attains a superior quality in constraining the expectations of the reader as well, using a lot of paradoxes and all that. So, very typical of Emily Dickinson's style, this poem is in itself a masterpiece. Thank you.